Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I was a little bit late. I'm trying to get everybody in. They're coming in fast. I'm sorry, I was teaching a class with AGLA, the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles this morning. So I'm running late. I'm sorry. They like that 11 to 12 slot, and then they want to talk to me for 5 minutes afterwards. I'm like, no, I gotta go. I got people waiting for me. So how's everybody doing today? Taught a class this morning with AGLA, which is the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles, on security deposit dispositions. So that's what's in my head right at the moment. Just to give you guys a quick heads up and a reminder, please take note that with COVID-19, you cannot put rents that were owed during the pandemic on your disposition of security deposit. So that's considered retaliatory, and there's fines that could be implemented for that for up to the next 5 years.
They really need new tires? That's surprising.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions or something that they want to talk about this morning?
Okay, well.
Okay, who do we hear? We hear someone. Jim, we can hear you talking. You might want to mute yourself. I can't mute you.
No, one of them was new anyway, or newer. I had one that got a big hole stuck in the side of it.
Jim,
But, nope,
we can hear you.
Okay, are you still there? Okay.
Does anybody have a question or anything that they want to talk about? Hi, David.
Yeah, Patty. Yeah, hi,
Save
Patty.
me.
How are you, Patty? Okay,
I'm good.
Patty, I've been, I meant to ask this question, but every time I forgot. Look, a lot of people come and apply, and they don't want to reveal or
No, I
who
gotta be there at
landlord
3.
was.
I'll leave
So,
you at 2 or something.
What I'd like to ask you this question: is it okay
All right,
ask
talk to
the
you later. Oh, anything about Joe's tonight?
to ask the applicants that if they don't have
At
any
6
rental
o'clock,
history,
that's what I had on.
I cannot rent because they're hiding their rental
All right.
the history. So
All
no
right.
rental history, they
We'll see you
qualify.
later.
Disqualify. I'm sorry, they disqualify. Is that okay if I do that to all the applicants?
Currently, what's happening is you cannot,
Yeah.
a landlord cannot
Okay.
disclose what happened during the pandemic.
Good. Okay.
No,
we'll see you
Okay.
in a little bit.
Patty, I'm not debating that. All I'm asking, have you rented apartment before or not? The guy is 50, 60, or 40 years old. He tells me, oh, I never rented apartment before. Can I say no rental history? I cannot therefore rent because you don't have any rental history. I want to have someone that has a rental history without discriminating to all of them.
You could do that as long as you do it to everyone.
Okay, got it.
So I have a question to you, David. Would you rent to me?
If you tell me you don't have a rental history and you never rented, I say, no, I'm sorry. It's not my decision. My partners don't agree with anybody who doesn't have a rental history to rent to.
Okay. And I have to really think about that because it could be discriminatory against someone that's just moving out of home.
Well, Patty, you got to tell me, is it okay or not? I really trust your judgment. I really need to know that.
I wouldn't touch it.
So you say no, it's not good to say that?
No, I've owned a house for the last 20 years. Now I want to rent and you won't rent to me?
Yeah, I understand. If you own the house and you can prove it. One person told me, oh, she's moving because her house is sold. I said, okay, bring your escrow papers. She never showed up again. Okay.
David, I'm going to do you a favor, okay? When you answer your phone, do you answer the phone, hello, how can I help you? Or do you say property management, how can I help you?
No, I say, I just answer the phone and say hello. That's all.
Okay, when you have a rental listed for rent, answer your phone, property management, how can I help you? Explain to your friends later why you're answering the phone that way. Chances are, if they're a tenant that's trying to shyst you, they'll stop right there. They won't even continue with the conversation. They'll hang up. They don't want to deal with a management company because a management company knows what the rules are.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. If they're planning on being challenging, I'm using my words carefully, or being a vindictive tenant, they are seeking an independent owner, not a management company. Did that click?
Okay.
Did
Yeah,
that
that's
click?
fine. That's
That's
fine.
stuck? Okay. So start answering your phone. Property management, how can I help you?
I promise I will do that.
Okay.
However,
And when
please-
you get hung up on, know that you dodged a bullet from somebody that was trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Okay?
sure. Going
Now
back to the
somebody's
question.
trying to get in and I don't know how to let them in. I screwed up. So give me a second. We want to talk about a death in a unit. Okay, Veronica, I'm going to ask you questions regarding the death in the unit because a death in a unit is a very, very tricky thing. I think somebody's in the waiting room and I can't let them in. I'm sorry. Here, oh, I figured it out. And it's April. It's our money chasing girl. We need her. Thank you for joining us, April. I was late today, so you're fine. So we're going to talk real briefly about a death in a unit. I know that's a hot topic right now. It's extremely tricky. Just because the tenant died doesn't mean the lease did, doesn't mean the written rental agreement did. It didn't. So makes it very, very tricky on how the situation is handled. You must be very, very careful. So I want to know what kind of questions you have regarding a death in a unit, because I could tell you this, if you handle it incorrectly, you could be looking at jail time for aiding and abetting in a crime. Hello, do I have your attention? Is this thing on? Are you listening? The rental agreement doesn't die. I know the tenant did, but the rental agreement doesn't. It is now assumed by the state of. Okay, so they have to come, give you keys, tell you they're moving out. You need to be notified by the coroner's office who the next of kin is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's got a lot of moving parts in a death in a unit, and you have to be very careful. I'll give you an example. Have a death in a unit, granddaughter comes and tells you, hey, grandpa died. I'm going to go clean out his stuff. Okay. So you say, oh, okay. I had no idea. I'm so sorry for your loss, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, yeah, I just need a key from you.
No.
You don't give a key to anyone. Do you understand? I know you want that unit empty. I know you want that unit vacant, but if you give them a key and they are not the next of kin, did you just aid and abet in a crime? Ooh, hi. When you're dealing with a death in the unit, you need to be extremely cautious of what you're doing. There's a lot of legal aspects that are revolving around it. So you need to be extremely cautious. You don't give a key to anyone. You need to talk to your legal counsel before you do. I would be more than happy to walk you through a situation. And when I need help, I will contact legal counsel. But a death in a unit is no joke. If they died in the unit, you have to disclose it for the next 3 years to everyone that wants to rent there. And that can be detrimental to the landlord. There's a lot of people that got the heebie-jeebies about living in a house that somebody previously died in. I know I speak from personal experience. I had a 5-bedroom house. The tenant died in the property and they didn't know for a week. Okay. Natural causes. Left this earth asleep in his bed. Hope I go the same way. Okay. Other people lived in the house with him. So to have it unknown for 5 days is an odd set of circumstances, but I understand how they came about, kind of. After we cleaned everything up, it took me 11 months to re-rent that property, and I had to make it almost $800 less than market value. It was insane. Nobody wanted to rent it. They all had the heebie-jeebies because somebody died there. The crazy thing is, I was good friends with the gentleman's daughter that passed away in the house. And I didn't get any weird heebie-jeebies from anybody. So I understand it can be a very tricky wicket when dealing with a death in a unit, but it's not something you want to figure out on your own. Your security deposit refund check needs to be made out to the estate of and that person's name. You need to handle business as normal. You could be notified by the coroner's office of who the next of kin is. Yada, yada, yada. So lots of moving parts in a death in a unit. I'd be more than happy to help walk you through some of it. I see, Veronica, you have a question. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Hi, Patty. I think I unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. So this is a husband and wife situation. And the husband was very sick of cancer, and he passed while the wife was out of this, in LA. And so she was informed that he had passed a couple of days. People, when we discovered the body in the apartment. And so she came over, and the coroners released the apartment to the wife, given the keys and everything. So that got taken care of. I'm just waiting because she asked me for a couple of days extra to empty the apartment because they have some furniture there. She's gonna go back to LA, and that's it. Is this how I follow up? Am I doing the right thing?
Hold on. Let me ask you some questions, Veronica.
Okay.
Is the husband and the wife on the rental agreement?
Yeah, they're both on the rent agreement.
Okay, so how you need to look at it is just deal with the wife.
Okay, but do the security deposit will still have to say estate of and the husband's name?
No, because there's a husband and wife involved.
So I had to put both names or just her name?
Both names.
Both names, okay. Yes, the contract is on both names.
Then the deposit goes under both names as well.
Also both names, okay. All right.
You
And
have an easy one you're dealing with, just so you know.
yeah.
What
Yes,
you're dealing with is easy when it comes to a death in a unit.
Because the husband and wife, right? I assume that was easy.
Bingo.
Let me ask you, I know that we have to disclose it, you said for 3 years. My other question is, do you have to disclose the cause of the death or just the pass on the apartment?
You can't disclose the cause of the death. You can say, hold on. You can't disclose the cause of the death if it's AIDS related.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me think about how I would approach this. Hold on. It's coming. It's coming in my blonde brain. I feel it. I would approach it that he died from cancer-related issues. I don't see a problem with that.
Why would you have to give a reason, Patty?
You don't necessarily
Yes.
have to give a reason. You don't have to give a reason at all other than there's been a death in the unit. But the first thing that tenants feel is it was a murder, death, suicide. Let's be honest.
Well,
Okay.
as long as you disclose it wasn't a murder, a suicide, and the family members didn't mention to you the reason, because it's no one's, that I would imagine it's no one's business to know if my family member passed away, what they passed away from.
Right. And you don't
We should say
necessarily
that it was
have to
natural
disclose.
causes.
You could say that it was natural causes, but please know that a certificate of death could be public property. So I would just say that they died in the unit. We don't know the circumstances. We just know that, they passed away. I hate to tell you guys this, but we're all going to die one day. We can't control when, where, and who, and why. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, unfortunately. But I've had some very weird occurrences in deaths in a unit that have caused quite a bit of litigation. Okay. And when you're advertising that unit, Here's how you need to do it. Hi, you're inquiring about this unit. Just so you know, there was a death in a unit. Why would you do that at hello on the phone? Because it wastes your time if you don't. They'll make an appointment, they'll come and see it, and then you'll tell them, and then they'll run off. Wouldn't you rather just tell them on the phone? And that way, if they still are interested, they'll show up. I'm just saying.
That was gonna be my next question, is how you actually advertise it, how you actually, let them know without,
I tell them at hello.
scare them. Okay.
I tell them at hello. And this is just me talking to you because, and I don't know that I'd go into the cause of death, but I would say something along the lines of the tenant was ill for a long time. That's all I know. Something like that. Let them assume the actual cause. I used natural causes before as a reason, natural cause. They went in their sleep. Don't worry about it. It is extremely challenging, especially to get that unit re-rented. But people want to know the why. Was it a murder, death, suicide? And I have the worst one ever. Okay. We're required to notify them. We don't have to put anything in writing. Okay.
Oh,
Did you hear that? There's no
Yes.
disclosure that you have to put in writing. Okay. But I talk about it a lot when I have a death in the unit. I'll talk to them at hello. Yeah, unfortunately, this person was ill over the course of time and they're no longer with us. And I leave it at that. I mean, that definitely defines some kind of a illness, cancer, something along those lines, were natural causes, something along those lines. There was a death in the unit. I try to remind everybody we're all going to die one day. We can't choose when, where, or how, or we'd all be a lot different dealing with that. If we could choose, hey, just saying. So it's really tricky. I tell them at hello when they call about it. I tell them as soon as I walk in to show them the unit. I tell them again when we're signing the written rental agreement. Please just make sure I did already disclose there was a death in this unit, correct? So just keep, and then document when you disclosed it. You're not required to do it in writing. So very important that you understand that you're not required to do it in writing, but you definitely want to have a line of communication there in the beginning where you're telling them.
Hi, I'm gonna get a chocolate long john with cream.
Oh, somebody's ordering a chocolate
Cinnamon
long
roll.
john. Who's doing that?
And a glazed
we want one
buttermilk
too.
and a glazed twist.
I'm guessing.
And a small hot chocolate, that's it.
I'm trying to see who's not muted right
That's
now.
it.
Okay, so 4 donuts, the hot chocolate.
That was Margot.
Okay, Margot, we want a donut.
Make sure I have what?
Just make sure you have your face mask on for the window.
Okay, thank you.
Margot, make
Margot.
sure you order for all of us, please.
Margot, we all want a donut. Now she's like, oh my God, I wasn't muted. It's okay, happens to me too. All right. So it can be really tricky with the death in a unit. You want to make sure you're approaching it very cautiously. The biggest concern I have is how are they cleaning the unit out? Who gave them a key? I have questions that go on in my own head. So you're, Veronica, in a whole different set of facts. You have a wife involved there. She's on the written contract. It should be a relatively easy transition for you.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my other question, I guess, would be, do you legally have to request for a different type of cleaning crew to get to that unit clean, or you can just a regular cleaning crew could go in there and clean it, or you have to get a
I know what you're
specific.
saying. You're saying a hazmat crew or something along those
Yeah.
It's a hot
lines.
chocolate too, right?
Mhm.
It depends on the circumstances and the damages that were done in the property. So, and not to be totally gross to you guys, I'm sorry, but as a body decomposes, it emits more fluids. So if it sits for an hour, you're probably not going to have anything. If it sits for days, you're probably going to have some residual damages into the floorboards, into the, you may find out once you get in there what exactly you're dealing with as far as damages go, but damages are damages all day long. And it just depends. If you get in there and there's nothing and you can't tell where, then chances are it was not an issue and nothing that you would necessarily need to do something
Thank
in
you.
regards to. Okay.
Okay. Well, appreciate your input, Patty.
No problem.
Thank
And
you.
if you have something that comes up and you're not sure how to deal with it, girl, call me.
I will.
Patty,
I'd
a
rather
real
help
quick
you.
question. Quick question in reference to her question about the security deposit. Why would we have to issue, put both names on there if, and not just the wife's name, for example, in this case?
Because you took both names at hello. Okay. And I'm going to try to spell this out to you as simply as I can. It covers your butt better in the event of something being fishy.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe this wife that rented this unit with him 5 years ago, and I'm just talking out loud, is now an ex-wife and there's a new wife involved.
Okay.
Okay. So now who did you give the money to? You see what I mean? So
Exactly.
there's what has happened to Veronica here in this particular case is extremely easy to deal with because there's still a wife involved. Most of the times when we deal with a death in a unit, we are being told by someone else, a coroner, who knows, that somebody died in that unit. It could be somebody's granddaughter that comes and tells you. Usually when there's a death in a unit, there's a lot of emotions running wild, if you will, and people all want to get a piece of, and this is human nature, you guys, it has enough, we all want a piece of something from that person to remember them by, whether it was their favorite sweater, it could be something stupid like an envelope opener they always used. We want that to hold on to the memory of that person. Well, we're no different than somebody else. So when you're dealing with mourning and people going through that loss and the grieving process, strange things happen. People do weird things. So sometimes we need a coroner to tell us who the next of kin is so that we can then communicate with the next of kin and turn everybody else out.
Okay.
Because we don't want to deal with those other people. We only want to deal with the person that matters.
Exactly. Okay.
And sometimes I've been involved in situations where there was no next of kin and we actually had to do a sale and send the proceeds to the state. So my biggest concern with a death in the unit has to do with who's coming to get keys and they're clearing his stuff out. So I'll share a story with you guys just real quick. Had an on-site manager call me one day and she said, "Hey, Patty, I had a death in the unit. I'm looking at him. He's on the couch. I can see him through the window." Well, get off the phone with me and call 911. What are you doing? You know? Whoa, let's get them out there first. So she called me back a couple hours later and said that the coroner came, they took the body, you know, no foul play, blah, blah, blah. And then she proceeds to tell me, "I removed his valuables and personal items from the unit and put them in my office. And now I'm waiting for the family to contact me." You did what? You removed his personal belongings and valuables from his unit. Go put them back. And I promise I won't tell anybody you told me that. Go put them back right now because you're stealing. You can't take anything from that unit, just like you wouldn't if the person was alive. Go put it back. So there's some things that can happen that can cause a bigger problem. And that's my concern, is to make sure that you're not exposed to those things. A lot of times when you're dealing with a death in the unit, one person doesn't come forward, several people come forward. "Oh, I need the key." No, you wouldn't give the key to them if they were alive. Why are you going to give the key to them if they're not? So be careful what you're doing. Emotions run high. I know you want them to get all that stuff out of that unit. You're like, "Here, take the keys and take all that stuff with you." But I'm telling you, that's where you get into big trouble. big trouble, especially if the person that's asking you for access to the property has no right to that access. So you want to be very, very careful how you handle a death in a unit, or even if it's not in the unit, a death of a tenant, of a resident at all. You need to be very, very careful. Ex-wives come out of the woodwork like nobody's business. Well, I should say ex-husbands do that too. But yeah, I've gone through some pretty interesting death in a units. I used to work at a law firm. I'm not working there now. And I got a call from an on-site manager of an apartment community. We were evicting a tenant for non-payment of rent. And I pick up the phone and all I can hear is this distinct sound of stilettos running on a tile floor. Clack, 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 clack. That's all I heard in the phone. Distinctive sound. And I don't know what's going on. So I yell back, run. I don't know what she's running from. Run, just run. And she's trying to breathe and compose herself and she's running. She's scared. Whatever freaked her out. Patty, I have a death in a unit. Okay. Breathe. They can't chase you. They're not chasing you, okay? Breathe. What's going on? I walked in the front door. I got an odor complaint. So just so you guys know, if you get a bad smell complaint, 9 times out of 10, you are looking for something that's dead. Whether it be an animal or a human, you're on a critter hunt, okay? I'm just saying, speak from experience. If they complain about a smell, it has to do with a death somewhere. If they want more trash cans, they have more occupants than they're supposed to, okay? It's just something that runs hand in hand together. Deaths in a unit are not fun, okay? But she's calling me, freaking out, screaming. Her 2-year-old son is dead on the couch. Her 2-year-old son is dead on the couch. And she's just panicking, complete meltdown. Nobody needs to see a 2-year-old deceased. What she didn't know is mom was in the bedroom and it was a murder-suicide. And yeah, it was a mess, okay? But she called the authorities. The authorities came in. They found that mom was there too. She didn't know that. She got into the door, saw the child, and took off. So try to keep calm when it happens. It is extremely emotional, extremely emotional because it's not what we were expecting. And know that if you have a smell complaint, chances are you're chasing something that's deceased. Could be a critter. But usually that goes with a smell complaint, just so you know. And I've seen some pretty interesting ones and dealt with some pretty interesting scenarios. I had one where I got to work on a Monday. I answered the phone and it's a landlord telling me, our house was on the 6 o'clock news last night. Our house. And I kept thinking, it's not our house. I don't own it. But apparently there was an altercation in the front yard and our tenant shot another tenant in front of the house. Our tenant freaked out because he was the shooter, not the victim. And he was afraid of gang retaliation of all things. So he vacated in the middle of the night. No pre-move out inspection required. So things happen. I mean, we can't write the book, but we can. Remember, we can't control what happens, but we can control how we deal with it. So one of the things that I could tell you right away when you're dealing with a death in a unit immediately is, it's not you. It's part of your job. This isn't you. It's not your loved one. You can panic all you want, but not right now. Stay calm. Call the authorities. And then call your legal counsel if you need direction. Call me. I'll help you. I'll point you in the right direction. If we need legal counsel, I'll even call them for you. Anybody have anything that they want to talk about other than a death in a unit? Because I didn't want to take the whole day. How many demurs can these criminals file during the eviction process? First of all, I love you for calling them criminals because sometimes that's what they're doing. Usually, and tell me it's in LA, please. Usually we could see it happen up to 3 times during a case before a judge will deem it as frivolous and won't allow it to continue anymore. But a lot of times they do allow it to continue. It's in Orange County. Yeehaw. Thank God it's not in LA. Okay, that's why I'm asking. It is a stalling tactic from opposing counsel, and they're buying time and costing you money. I could explain it a simple way, but that's the simplest way I can. All of these demurs, ex-parte hearings, motions that are being filed in eviction cases are all stalling tactics. They don't have anything to do with the case in general. They found a loophole. They're going to throw some smoke at you and see which way the judge goes. That's all that is it's a stalling tactic. Let me see what else we got. Oh, that's our Orange County. Yeah. Orange County's a pretty landlord-friendly county as far as evictions and that go. And I'll tell you guys, judges across the state, from what I'm hearing in Ventura County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, Orange County, San Diego County, where I'm not seeing it is in LA. These judges are sick of these tenants crying the COVID game, and they're not playing anymore. If they haven't signed their declaration in the beginning of the pandemic, we were seeing that judges were allowing them to sign that declaration right there in the courtroom. We're not seeing that anymore. We're seeing judges signing with landlords. I would say out of 100 cases, we probably see 2 out of 100 where they let the tenant sign that declaration actually at the courthouse, and they say it's due to some other circumstances is why they're allowing this to happen. But 2 out of 100 we're seeing. So we're starting to see evictions go through. We're getting more and more lockout dates. Apply for the state's money if your tenant owes you money, and then encourage your tenant to apply. And if they refuse to apply, contact your legal counsel. Okay, we're starting to see tenants refusing to apply, stating that they're not a legal citizen in California, so they don't feel comfortable participating in the government's program. I got news for you. The government of the state of California has a law against discriminating regarding housing and you being an illegal immigrant. We can't discriminate, so they can't either. That's not a valid reason, but thanks for playing the game. What we're seeing now is more and more tenants that aren't willing to apply for the money because they're being deceitful. Go figure. Who would have ever thought that tenants would be deceitful during the COVID pandemic? It's true. It's happening. The trash is taking itself out. It's starting to filter. So we're starting to see a lot of tenants saying that they can't participate in the governmental program. Either they don't believe in the government or they have some BS reason of why they can't apply. It's all BS. You need to know that, and you need to contact your legal counsel and ask them what you can do at this point, because that's what needs to get out of this state and out of your rental. Okay, just saying, we don't need help like that. Anybody have anything else that they want to discuss? Oh, I got something from Lee. A vendor's invoice that I need for a security deposit withhold contains the handyman's name, PO box, address, and phone number, and the amount paid. Is it a problem that there is no physical address shown on the invoice? It could be a problem, Lee, to be honest with you. It could definitely be a problem. Also, I don't know what this invoice is for. Does it need to be itemized, or is everything that's on this invoice being charged to the tenant? And if it is, remember that it needs to be itemized. Towel bar, $45 installed. Toilet paper holder, $12 installed. We need that line by line. What was done and the price.
Well, Patty, what I did was I usually have the vendor create 2 receipts, one for the work for the tenant
that the tenant did damage and the other for me, but otherwise it would be itemized. But in some cases, like a painter, and he's just painting the one wall because of tenant damage, I'll just have a separate invoice for that. But just in general, does it matter?
I'd make sure it has a property address on it. And the reason that I'm stating this is if it doesn't have a name, address, and telephone number of the person doing the work, they can throw that out in court. And I've seen it happen all over the place. I've actually seen something thrown out because they couldn't verify if it was referenced to that property address or not. Remember, we're the professional in the industry, so we're held to a high standard as being a landlord, a property manager, etc. We're held to a very high standard in court. So my theory would be send that back to the vendor and ask him to make mention of the address where the work was completed.
I do that with all licensed contractors, obviously, but this was a handyman and he refuses. So
he refuses to put the address
like a gardener. They won't do it. Handyman, licensed contractors obviously do, but.
So write it right on the invoice yourself. Write the property address. Just write RE and put in the address.
No, not my property address. His property address. It just shows his PO box. Is that legal?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I thought you meant that the invoice itself didn't state the address of where the work was being done. Okay.
No, it's got the address of the work. So just his PO box, the handyman's PO box is sufficient evidence in court. All right, thank you.
Name, address, PO box, phone number, or name, address, phone number is required on all invoices.
But a PO box on the invoice for the vendor is okay.
Bingo.
All right, thank you.
In other words, if the courts or the tenant wanted to write him a letter, they could.
Good. Okay.
If they wanted to subpoena him to court, they could do it through his PO box.
Perfect.
It took me a while to figure out what you were talking about. Thank you for dealing with my blondness. It happens
Patty,
sometimes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, when you check housing is key, my tenants, some of them shows applications in progress. Some of them says application submitted. We're talking about the tenants. Is there anyone there who knows the difference between submitted and in progress? Which one means that the tenant actually has done his part?
Submitted would be that the tenants completed their portion. In progress means that they're still waiting for some documentation from the tenant or from you.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
So that would be the only way to know if the tenant has done its part, right?
Yep.
Thank you, Patty.
And from what I found out from April, and April is our money chaser, you guys, I don't mean to define her that way, but she's really good when it comes to finding a program that'll help pay the landlord. She's phenomenal at chasing a buck, okay? There's a lot more cities and municipalities that are now administering the funds from the state too, through housingiskey.com. And I believe the California Apartment Association has a list of those websites of which you can apply based on where your city is. Is that correct, April? I might just get a thumbs up. Yep, she put correct. All right, does anybody have anything else that they want to talk about? Anything that they need to have addressed? Today's a busy day for me. I had the AGLA webinar before this one, and I'm teaching a class tonight on marketing for 3 hours, so wish me luck. Today's a busy day.
Patty, I have a question.
Sure.
I have a tenant, and she lives in the unit with her mom and her husband and kids. I guess there was a with in the family, and they took in 2 nieces. Now,
Okay.
my understanding is she was going to be fostering them, but this
Okay.
fostering has been going on for quite a while. I was able to find out because we have a live scan facility also, and they came in to get fingerprint and a background check for adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you work that in reference to, do we increase the rent? Are we allowed to increase the rent? Even, I mean, are they considered additional tenants? Or are they additional family? Because it's not like they're newborns of theirs or their first child,
But if they adopted them, they are their children.
but they're
What's-
additional.
What city is the property located in?
The beautiful city of Los Angeles.
And do you have a restriction on how many occupants can be in that unit?
In the contract?
Bingo, it has to be in the contract and in the criteria in order for it to be enforceable.
In the contract, if I'm not mistaken, there is, it does state that. The only thing is that she was fighting me on was that her 2 older children moved out. So therefore she could bring them in and substitute her older children. Is that correct?
Well, the older children don't live there anymore, then they don't live there anymore.
So can they replace those older children with the new adopted ones?
Most likely, the answer to that is going to be yes. Look at it from a fair housing perspective.
So, okay. So they're not considered additional occupants? So then,
They're considered additional occupants until they give you verification saying that they're living there. But the reality is that children and children are a protected class in the state of California. So you would have to have specific language, and work with me here, both on your criteria and in your rental agreement that says the maximum occupancy for this property is 4 persons or 2 persons or something along those lines. If it doesn't say that, you don't have a restriction and there's absolutely nothing you can do. Think about it this way. Their kids grew up, somebody in their family died, or God knows life happened to them, whatever it is, and now they're taking in 2 other family members to raise them. Should they be penalized for that?
should the owner be penalized for that?
No, I said, should the tenant be
No,
penalized?
I
for
understand
that?
what you're saying, but that's
Right, but if the 2 older children are moved out and now we have 2 new children in the property, they really didn't do anything wrong.
But they stated that 2 older children have moved out, but I see them there on a daily basis because they come and supposedly visit mom and dad.
Well, if they're in school, they're raiding the refrigerator and using their laundry. Let's face it. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying, it's just, it's just so unfair.
I know, I get it. And I'm going to be strictly honest with you. Children are a protected class in the state of California. You're in the city of LA, which is the most heavily litigated city out there. Okay. And you're in the middle of a COVID pandemic. And you see what I mean? There's so many balls moving that are just against you. It would be better if you just added them to the contract and went that way. I get what you're saying about the older people being there every day. Call them out on it. Do you have video surveillance where you can watch their comings and goings with their cars? You may want to consider using that of, hey, you do have 2 additional occupants, but there's some things you need to remember. You're poking big teeth because
No, and then I have to be
currently-
careful with them.
I know. And you're poking big teeth because currently there is a law that passed that says if someone is on the verge of homelessness, the tenant can take them in and the landlord can't do anything about it for 1 year. If those children are up for adoption, in my opinion, that's a verge of homelessness. Okay. On top of that, you're dealing with the global pandemic. Whereas if someone is going to be homeless because of the pandemic, you can take them in and the landlord can't do anything about it for 12 months. So you have a couple of different caveats that they could really lean on to throw fire in your general direction. My question is, if you don't have to, why?
Okay.
Just something to think about. If they're telling you that those people don't live there anymore, then tell them you'd like their key.
Yeah.
Oh, they moved out. They never surrendered their key to me. See how that worked? Because
Yeah,
that's just going to make them go, wait, what? Maybe what we're trying to do isn't going to work. They're on to us. We don't know what they're doing at the same time, but if somebody, you just got to keep it even Steven across the board. You know what I
No,
mean?
yeah, I understand. Okay,
And
thank you.
it's too risky for me because children are a protected class and you don't know the circumstances behind that. Okay, let me give you an example. in February, I got a phone call from a landlord who said, I need to evict my tenant. They're not paying me the rent. I said, okay, we can do a 15-day notice. When did they stop paying rent? Well, they stopped paying rent in January when their mom died. Okay. And then in February, a week ago, their dad died. Both of them died from COVID. And now I need to evict the people that are left behind in the unit. How old are they? 7, 14, and 17. And they just lost both parents to COVID, and you want to evict them? They're all minors.
18? Yeah, exactly.
They're all minors.
Exactly.
Number one, you can't evict them. You can't evict the people that have passed away, but they've passed away. So now you're evicting their estate. And what does that say to you as a landlord to those 3 children that lost both their parents and they're about to lose their home? When do you put some morals into place and some values into place? You know, hey, 3 kids just lost both their parents and they're about to be a ward of the state. And you want to evict them. And how far behind are they at that point? 2 months? So I feel you.
That's a different case. I totally understand that.
I know.
But the other case that I was talking about is a tenant who's a problem, who's, you know, she's a big problem, number one. And
she's running her own program is what's
going on. I was wondering
if
if there's any way for me to increase the rent or kick her out.
When's the last time you went into the unit?
Last week.
Okay. Does it appear that the other children aren't living there?
Well, they weren't there that day because we were doing some work in her unit.
Yeah, but when we're talking about beds and dressers and clothing and things like that, does it look like the other kids don't live there anymore?
No, actually it doesn't look like they don't live there anymore.
Okay, so now I'd start on that. You said they didn't live here anymore, but they're still here every day. So they can't be visiting you every day.
Correct.
And you may want to consider putting up surveillance cameras. Please take note. I don't ever call them security cameras, you guys. They are surveillance. They do not provide security. You could get sued for that. Okay. Surveillance.
Okay. Thank you, Patty.
No worries. And if you need anything else, let me know. I will do whatever I can to help you.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Anybody have anything else for me? I'm just checking. Oh,
Patty, I do, Lee.
okay. And wait, real quick, and I'll take yours. April gave us a note. A little FYI, the process will take at least another 4 weeks after you are contacted by the case manager. And what April's referring to is the money from COVID, the 80/20 money. Okay, now go ahead and ask me your question.
Okay, so if I have a tenant who she has a 21-year-old, so they're not a child anymore, right?
Correct.
Okay, because they're over 18. And it was annual lease, and he has been a problem and very mean to me as a disabled person. So I just told her I wasn't going to renew her lease again. Okay, it's a single family home. It's not subject to rent control.
Thank you, Lee. You know my questions.
And so he went into the Marines, and then when he got out of the Marines, he moved back in. And what I did is she said it's okay because I discussed the problem, and I said, you know, this is abuse. This is landlord abuse. And so when
it's actually affecting the right to quiet enjoyment for you.
Yes.
So it's actually a cause for eviction, but you'd have to build a case on it. But keep talking.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
So he went into the Marines, he got out of the Marines and moved back in. And so what do I do now? Let's pretend it's not COVID. I'll wait till after COVID. What do I do?
After COVID, give them a notice of the owner wants their house back.
Well, I can't just make him move out and let everybody else stay?
No, that's discriminatory. Can I make a husband move out and the wife gets to stay? That's discriminatory.
But he was taken off the lease specifically.
He was taken off the rental agreement specifically, then I would
When?
serve for a, then I would serve for a 3-day curable breach of covenant for an unauthorized occupant within our unit.
Okay, and then what if he doesn't move out?
You can evict him for her having an unauthorized occupant.
Evict her or evict everybody or just him?
Evict everybody.
Oh,
Yeah, it's all gonna come down to you have to go attack her to get him gone.
okay. So the
Okay,
only way
just
I
so
would
you
have to-
understand.
The only way I would have to do that is have the neighbors tell me if his car is parked in the street and stuff like, or do I have to have a, what'd you call it? Surveillance camera?
I'm gonna tell you what you have to have, and you guys, please all
Single-family house.
pay, you guys all pay attention, because what you need to have is dates, times, and witnesses. Whether you pull that from a surveillance camera or you have personal accounting, in order to prove a nuisance case, an unauthorized occupant case, things like that, you need to have dates, times, and witnesses. So I know that you have a thorn in your side, for lack of a better way to say it, for something that happened prior to him going into the military. Is he being cordial now, or you don't know that
No,
yet?
he's the same way.
Oh, he's still, oh, she has unauthorized occupants within her unit. I believe your lease contract says that an occupant can't stay more, a guest can't stay more than 14 days, if I remember your lease contract, Lee. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a CAR lease.
Okay, and it's the 14-day?
Uh-huh.
Yep. So serve her a notice saying that you've seen him there and see what she says. If she says he moved back in after he got out of the Marines,
Oh, she acknowledges he moved back in. Oh, no, she acknowledges he moved back in, but she's saying, oh, blah, 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 and it's COVID and he had no place to go and it's only temporary, the standard bull.
I know, and she's a mother. We know what that's like.
And he's a bodybuilder and I'm really afraid of him. I
Girl,
really
don't
am.
be afraid of them. They're just humans, okay? To give you completely safe advice that would limit your exposure and your liability, and remind you, I can't give advice.
Mhm.
So to give you a best business practice and it not be considered retaliation, I would tell you to serve them a notice to terminate tenancy on or before, or on or after, I'm sorry, January 1st of 2022.
Even though it's in Orange County.
The reason being is Senate Bill 91 added 2 pages of retaliatory issues because of the pandemic. And you could be fined by the court if you terminate tenancy prior to 6 months after the pandemic being over. So just so everybody understands, if your tenant has bed bugs, if they call code enforcement, if they call fair housing, if they call health and safety on you, okay, any of those things, or there's a global pandemic, you can't terminate tenancy for 6 months or it could be considered retaliatory.
So 6 months after the governor releases it, the tiers? Is that what you're
June
saying?
30th, so that would take effect January 1st, 2022.
Got it. Thank you.
It's just the best business practice. Now, you could go to your attorney and say the same thing that you just told me, and they may tell you you could do it sooner, but I'm not an attorney.
Got it. Thank you, Patty.
That was the nicest way I could say, you may have
Okay.
a case outside of this, but the best business practice is to wait until January 1st of 2022 to terminate tenancy, increase rents, anything. Just saying, you guys, best business practice. And besides, come on, if your tenant is paid rent throughout the entire 16 months of the pandemic, do you really want to reward them for their great behavior by increasing their rent as soon as you can?
Well, no, but
I
what
know,
about, but
I
what
know,
about like
but I'm
a
speaking out
3%
loud.
cost of living raise? Is that gouging?
Well, currently we're in a pandemic, so you can't do any rent increases at all.
No, once their lease ends, if they want to renew the lease.
If their lease ends and they want to renew the lease and you want to increase the rent, by absolutely you can increase the rent going forward.
Okay.
Just not right now because we're in a pandemic.
Well, the
So
lease
we wanna
expires
release-
July 1st, so that's a good thing, right?
Right, but you can't even serve the notice to increase the rent until July 1st.
Okay, so can't I date a lease renewal July 1st and they sign it now?
Yes, absolutely.
It's just not effective to July 1st.
Bingo. And you can
Okay.
put your rent increase on there as well.
Okay, thank you.
And did
So
somebody
as
else
of
ask a
July
question?
1st, as of July 1st, we can increase rents?
I didn't say that.
You're not recommending it. I understand what you're saying. You're not recommending it, but legally, can an owner increase a rent as of July 1st?
I would wait 6 months afterwards.
That I understand what you're saying. I'll tell you, the reason why I'm stating this, I know that commercial is different.
Yes, commercial is absolutely different. Commercial has lost all their protections on October 5th of last year.
I know.
So commercial doesn't have any protection. You can increase rents, you can terminate tenancy, you can evict them, you can do whatever you want, except
Yeah.
in LA County. In LA County, commercial has a moratorium in place right now, where if they've been affected by COVID and they can prove it, and let's face it, if they were shut down, they can prove it, they could have a little bit more pull with a commercial. So in LA County, I talked to an attorney about commercial. If you're not in LA County, you can do whatever you want in commercial. Commercial lost all their protections.
Sad to say.
It's sad. And it's funny because right now, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what's happening in our industry, but there are no homes for rent. Can everybody verify that? No single family residences available for rent. Anybody gonna argue with me?
No?
Yep, I can tell you why. And it's going to make things extremely challenging in the next 6 months. Okay. And I'm warning you. So hear what I'm saying. Okay. In the next 6 months, let's see. Owners that have evicted and currently have possession of their units are not putting them back up for rent right now. They would rather sit on them for the next 3 months until the pandemic is over and put them up for rent on July 1st. So in the meantime, when we're trying to get a resident out of a property or we're evicting and they are telling you there's nowhere for them to go, they're not lying. There is nowhere for them to go. There is outside of the state. Bye-bye. I wish we could tell them that, but there's plenty of places for you to rent in Florida. Get out. But know that that's a serious problem, especially for people that are trying to pay relocation fees. They just can't find anywhere to go. So definitely something to take into consideration when you're trying to terminate tenancy or pay cash for keys during this pandemic is there's nowhere for them to go. A lot of landowners are sitting on their vacancies rather than taking the risk of putting somebody in there that's just going to cry COVID. So we're starting to see a lot of that, a lot. And it's not because they're all selling. A large portion of them are selling and a lot of tenants are purchasing now. But for the most part, long-term investors on the mom and pop scale are sitting on their vacant units until July 1. And then they'll put them back. We'll see a surge of houses become available on July 1st. You watch. And we'll see what happens with that. I've been waiting for the market to crash for the last 12 months. And I keep saying every time they make another change, oh, here it comes. Oh, here it comes. It hasn't happened yet, but I know it's coming. Anybody have anything else, or we'll go ahead and end for today and be back next week. I know we wanted to talk about things. Death in a unit was pretty predominant today.
I have
Anybody
a quick
else?
question.
Of course.
I've got a tenants living in a unit. They're on month to month. I have someone looking to buy it. We gave them a 60-day notice. Recently, close of escrow was supposed to be May 15th. And 60-day notice ends May 30th. The new buyer wants the tenants to stay. How would we handle a new lease? Will we have the lease signed after it closes?
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
You said the buyer asked the tenant to vacate the unit and you gave them a 60-day notice.
Correct.
You can't terminate tenancy while we're in a global pandemic. So that is invalid, just so you know. And now they
Okay.
want them to stay. Is that correct?
The new buyer wants them to stay, yes.
So you would rescind the 60-day notice.
Okay.
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 And then you can either assign or hypothecate the lease contract through escrow so that the buyer now takes over on that lease, or
Okay.
you can ask the tenant to sign a new residential rental contract. But before I say that, what city are you in?
Santa Ana.
So you're in Orange County.
Yes.
Okay, you're fine.
Okay.
LA County has a moratorium in place that's extremely strict right now. So I'm just trying to
Okay.
make sure you're not
I got you.
exposed to that. So sometimes when I ask you a question and then I pause, it's my
Yeah.
brain going, okay, we're fine. Or don't do
Okay.
it this way, or don't do it that way. Sorry, I am blonde. Sometimes
Yeah.
it processes. But yeah, you can hypothecate the notice through, or not the notice, the lease contract through escrow. And that way, what would happen is then you would send a letter to the tenant immediately when escrow closed, telling them, hi, I'm the new owner. This is your new owner. They have your security deposit. That's a requirement. This is who you pay the rent to. This is how you contact them.
Got it.
So
Okay.
you have to do that regardless, but you could ask them to sign a new contract with you once the owner owns the property. Would be the better business practice, but the reality is the old contract stands. I just don't know how well it's written.
Got it. Okay. Appreciate the help. Thank you so much.
No worries, no worries. But definitely make sure you hypothecate that through escrow.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Okay. If a lease was created with 2 roommates and one of the roommates' mom co-signed and does not live there, and now the lease will be expiring, roommate 1 wants to leave and the remaining tenant, the daughter of the co-signer, wants to get a new roommate. Will this invalidate the co-signer agreement? Can I do this under LARSO? Wow, you got a lot of questions, Anna. Okay, so you have a roommate situation. Did the roommates sign the leases separately and they have their own lease per room? Or did the roommates sign it together? I'm with you, Anna. I just have questions as we go along. And mom co-signed. And now the lease will be expiring. One roommate wants to leave and the remaining tenant is the daughter of the co-signer, wants to get a new roommate. Will this invalidate the co-signer agreement? Can I do this under LARSO? Yes, you can do this under LARSO. And you can tell her that she can't bring in another roommate under LARSO. You can tell her that she can bring other roommates, but they have to apply and meet your criteria. So you have a lot of options, okay? A lot. Personally, I would tell them if they want to bring in another roommate that they have to fill out applications and meet your criteria. Because you want to put somebody in there that you have enough teeth that you can go after them in the event of a default and that you can sink your teeth into them as well. So look at it this way. And I'm just trying to give you a different perspective on your question. If you have a husband and wife living in a property and they're getting a divorce and the wife's moving out, can the husband have a new girlfriend move in? He could, if you allow it. So they would need to apply, all roommates would need to apply and meet your criteria in order for you to approve them to live there. So it makes it extremely challenging for the roommate that's currently in position, because not only do they have to find somebody that they want to live with, they also have to meet your criteria. So yeah, it can be challenging, but yeah, you can make that happen under LARSO. Can you make it so they can't bring in another roommate? Possibly, absolutely. I definitely check with your legal counsel. Trying to be careful that I'm not giving legal advice and just business practices. But yeah, you could probably say no. It's up to you. All right, let me see if I have any more questions and then I'll end it for today. I know we're going over. Thanks for the meeting. Oh, thank you, you guys. You guys are awesome. All right, if you guys need nothing else, we'll go ahead and close this for today. And then next week on the 21st, we have Wednesdays with Widget. And I was gonna try to do something a little bit bigger towards the end of this month, but I think I'm gonna push it into May. And we'll do a big class in May, like mid-May. You guys send me what you want to learn about. If death in a unit is something that you want to learn about, let's learn about it because it happens and it's tricky. It's tricky. And each one of them is different. But you guys send me a little message, shoot me out an email, something, tell me what you want to learn more about so that I can make sure that I'm gearing my trainings where it would be most beneficial for you. So definitely want to get more into depth of death in a unit. It has a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving pieces. I'm very concerned about your exposure level during those during that time, because I get it. We want our units back. I know I want mine back when that happens, but we got to be very careful that we're not exposing ourselves to litigation, lawsuits, criminal charges. So we need to be very, very cautious with what we're doing there. All right, you guys, you have a wonderful day. You guys all know how to hunt me down in the event that you need to, and we'll talk soon. Bye.